Azkaban-episode 73. But you believe us? Yes, I do, said Dumbledore quietly. But I have no power to make other men see the truth or to overrule the Minister of Magic. Harry stared up into the grave face and felt as though the ground beneath him were falling sharply away. He had grown used to the idea that Dumbledore could solve anything. He had expected Dumbledore to pull some amazing solution out of the air. But no, their last hope was gone. "What we need," said Dumbledore slowly, and his light blue eyes moved from Harry to Hermione. "What we need is more time." "But," Hermione began, and then her eyes became very round. "Oh." "Now, pay attention," said Dumbledore, speaking very low and very clearly. "Sirius is locked in Professor Flitwick's office on the 7th floor. 13th window from the right of the West Tower. If all goes well, you will be able to save more than one innocent life tonight. But remember this, both of you. You must not be seen. Miss Granger, you know the law. You know what is at stake. You must not be seen." Harry didn't have a clue what was going on. Dumbledore had turned on his heel and looked back as he reached the door. "I am going to lock you in. It is 5 minutes to midnight. Miss Granger, 3 turns should do it. Good luck." "Good luck?" Harry repeated as the door closed behind Dumbledore. 3 turns? What's he talking about? What are we supposed to do?" But Hermione was fumbling with the neck of her robes, pulling from beneath them a very long, very fine gold chain. "Harry, come here," she said urgently. "Quick!" Harry moved toward her, completely bewildered. She was holding the chain out. He saw a tiny, sparkling hourglass hanging from it. "Here." She threw the chain around his neck, too. "Ready?" she said breathlessly. "What are we doing?" Harry said, completely lost. Hermione turned the hourglass over 3 times. The dark ward dissolved. Harry had the sensation that he was flying very fast backward. A blur of colors and shapes rushed past him. His ears were pounding. He tried to yell, but he couldn't hear his own voice. And then he felt solid ground beneath his feet, and everything came into focus again. He was standing next to Hermione in the deserted entrance hall, and a stream of golden sunlight was falling across the paved floor from the opened front doors. He looked wildly around at Hermione, the chain of the hourglass cutting into his neck. "Hermione, what the— In here!" Hermione seized Harry's arm and dragged him across the hall to the door of a broom closet. She opened it, pushed him inside among the buckets and mops, and then slammed the door behind them. "What? How? Hermione, what happened?" "We've gone back in time," Hermione whispered, lifting the chain off Harry's neck in the darkness. 3 hours back." Harry found his own leg and gave it a very hard pinch. It hurt a lot, which seemed to rule out the possibility that he was having a very bizarre dream. "But, shh, listen, someone's coming. I think it might be us." Hermione had her ear pressed against the cupboard door. "Footsteps across the hall? Yes, I think it's us going down to Hagrid's." "Are you telling me that we're here in this cupboard and we're out there too?" Harry whispered. "Yes," said Hermione, her ear still glued to the cupboard door. "I'm sure it's us. It doesn't sound like more than 3 people, and we're walking slowly because we're under the invisibility cloak." She broke off, still listening intently.
"We've gone down the front steps."
Hermione sat down on an upturned bucket, looking desperately anxious. But Harry wanted a few questions answered. "Where did you get that hourglass thing?"
"It's called a time turner," Hermione whispered. "And I got it from Professor McGonagall on our first day back. I've been using it all year to get to my lessons. Professor McGonagall made me swear I wouldn't tell anyone. She had to write all sorts of letters to the Ministry of Magic so I could have one. She had to tell them that I was a model student and that I would never, ever use it for anything except my studies. I've been turning it back so I could do hours over again, and that's how I've been doing several lessons at once, see? But, Harry, I don't understand what Dumbledore wants us to do. Why did he tell us to go back 3 hours? How's that going to help Sirius?"
Harry stared at her shadowy face. "Well, there must be something that happened around now that he wants us to change," he said. "What happened? We were walking down to Hagrid's 3 hours ago."
"This is 3 hours ago, and we are walking down to Hagrid's," said Hermione. "We just heard ourselves leaving."
Harry frowned. He felt as though he were screwing up his whole brain in concentration. Dumbledore just said we could save more than one innocent life. And then it hit him. "Hermione, we're going to save Buckbeak."
"But how will that help Sirius?"
Dumbledore said. "He just told us where the window is. The window of Flitwick's office, where they've got Sirius locked up. We've got to fly Buckbeak up to the window and rescue Sirius. He can escape on Buckbeak. They can escape together." From what Harry could see of Hermione's face, she looked terrified.
"If we manage that without being seen, it'll be a miracle."
"Well, we've got to try, haven't we?" said Harry. He stood up and pressed his ear against the door. "Doesn't sound like anyone's there. Come on, let's go." Harry pushed open the closet door. The entrance hall was deserted. As quietly and quickly as they could, they darted out of the closet and down the stone steps. The shadows were already lengthening, the tops of the trees in the forbidden forest gilded once more with gold.
"If anybody's looking out of the window," Hermione squeaked, looking up at the castle behind them.
"We'll run for it," said Harry determinedly. "Straight into the forest, all right? We'll have to hide behind a tree or something and keep a lookout."
"Okay, but we'll go round by the greenhouses," said Hermione breathlessly. "We need to keep out of sight of Hagrid's house, or we'll see us. We must be nearly at Hagrid's by now."
Still working out what she meant, Harry set off at a sprint with Hermione right behind him. They tore across the vegetable gardens to the greenhouses, paused for a moment behind them, then set off again fast as they could, skirting around the whomping willow, tearing down the shelter of the forest. Safe in the shadows of the trees, Harry turned round. Seconds later, Hermione arrived beside him, panting.
"Right," she gasped. "We need to sneak over to Hagrid's. Keep out of sight, Harry."
They made their way silently through the trees, keeping to the very edge of the forest. Then, as they glimpsed the front of Hagrid's house, they heard a knock upon his door. They moved quickly behind a wide oak trunk, peering out from either side. Hagrid had appeared in his doorway, shaking and white, looking around to see who had knocked. And Harry heard his own voice. "It's us. We're wearing the invisibility cloak. Let us in and we can take it off."
"You shouldn't have come," Hagrid whispered.
He stood back, then shut the door quickly. "This is the weirdest thing we've ever done," Harry said fervently.
"Let's move along a bit," Hermione whispered. "We need to get nearer to Buckbeak."
They crept through the trees until they saw the nervous hippogriff, tethered to the fence around Hagrid's pumpkin patch.
"Now?" Harry whispered. "No," said Hermione. "If we steal him now, those committee people will think Hagrid set him free. We've got to wait until they've seen he's tied outside."
"Well, that's going to give us about 60 seconds, said Harry. This was starting to seem impossible.